नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। हरि ओम। हरि ओम. So can someone recollect what is it that we saw last? We found the link and we move ahead. Yes. Yes, please. Aditi ji, Chitra ji, or Shadama ji, anybody? Would you like to share some of the points that we covered last? So the link is established. Yes, please.
I'll start.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so basically, Dr. Nirodbaran states from the essays of Gita, what Sri Aurobindo had written, what some aspects that he is not very convinced or he still finds it very difficult to accept that it's possible. So, where some of the statements where avatars are such beings where the real substance radiates, vanquishing the drawbacks or disadvantages of Maya. And avatars are here to show that humans can also transcend. And all this feels impossible, and it feels that we are headed towards a fool's paradise. So he just makes that statement. And Sri Aurobindo counters all his arguments and points out the rigidity and mainly the I can't do this aspect,
Hmm.
stating that he has to follow the leader or the guide with the divine's grace and face all the situations with courage. So it's not like he has to create a path. There has been a path that the mother and Sri Aurobindo have, laid, and he has to just follow that path. And also says that if he were to be an avatar, he'll be able to perform all the impossible activities with great
Jumping
ease
from
and
mountains and
mountains.
yes.
And he'll have to face no death, and basically, he'll be an immortal, and there'll be no
Probably he could
failures.
have gone to Hollywood and directed some of these superheroes because the powers that he's talking about are quite interesting.
So Sri
Yes.
Aurobindo says that even avatars have given up on their mortal lives. And he also claims that avatars are born in a family with good or great karmic records, whereas ordinary ones have to bear the uh, sins of their previous births and also their ancestors. So Sri Aurobindo says that even avatars also have gone through just like a normal, ordinary human nature of rebirths and all those other aspects. And Sri Aurobindo also states that by the divine's grace, he reached that state of thoughtlessness, and says that many more also have achieved
Hmm.
before him. These were some of the important things we saw.
Deal. Yes. All right, Chitra ji. Aditi, would you like to add anything more? No. All right. Fine, ji. So this thoughtlessness, the state of thoughtlessness is something very interesting which Aurobindo talked about. It is when we are very, very calm on the inside. That time we are more receptive. We are receptive to the higher influences. We are more open, and that is why sadhana must be done to reach that state. Krishna also talked about how people meditate, how people focus, they do dhyana, and then raise their consciousness. What happens by raising consciousness? Anybody, if you can just tell me, what do you think would happen if when we raise our consciousness? Just generally, I'm saying in our everyday life perspective, what difference will it make if we raise our consciousness in everyday lives? If we want to look at it, because a lot of times we think practically, how does it benefit me? I'm busy with my job. I'm busy with my, say, college. I'm busy with some other, missions that I'm. How? What is the need for this higher consciousness in every action? Thoughtlessness. Why do we even need to reach that state if we have to live everyday life? Maybe for the yogis it might be useful, isn't it? But anybody, what do you think? How will it be useful? Yes, Aditi ji, Chitra ji. Oh, Chitra ji is answering. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, even in our day-to-day lives, be it any, even it might be work or anything. So you won't spend much time or energy on thinking of certain things which might not be necessary, if it's just pertaining to work. Or when you start thinking that you are not the doer and you're doing
Hmm.
something, the divine's work, right? So the perception towards work also changes. So I
But
think,
that is still thinking only, no?
huh?
We're talking about thoughtlessness. We are thinking
Hmm.
that we are doing divine's work. So, but that's again a thought, isn't it? So this aspect of this is actually a state which has to be reached. So we are now using words and thoughts to describe what is the state of thoughtlessness. So obviously it is going to be a challenge. But if we just try to visualize it, meaning our thoughts have their own sanskaras. I mean, not only do thoughts create sanskaras, thoughts are also affected by past sanskaras. So when an event is taking place, as the event is taking place, we are not able to receive that conscious live event completely because thoughts become a source of interference. Say divine wants something to manifest. Every time the divine is at play, we have seen how different levels, forces are at play to bring about manifestation. Say even world leaders meet with a thought of manifesting something, isn't it? But this again a level of a thought, but the higher plane has something else in mind. So the thoughts have not received anything, or these people who are having these, one person has one view, another world leader has another view, both try, but they are not able to receive because their personal agendas come in the way and come as a hurdle to the manifestation of something bigger. So, something like that in our life also, if we are going to go to that state of thoughtlessness, maybe some very difficult moment comes in front of us. We see the most unfavorable people or people who create a lot of ripples in our consciousness. There are people, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you don't even need to see them. Just the thought of that person is like, oh, wrinkles on the eyebrows immediately appear because that is their influence. So, but when you are in thoughtless state, you are actually completely one step out of everything. And at that time, Mr. Sherwinder said he did not write by thinking. He did not write by thinking whatever he wrote. I had gone to a talk and the person asked the writer, so how do you get into that state of mind and what do you think? And how do you generate those thoughts to write the. Now, share and that person is again connected with share. So that person, I think, probably felt it was a very difficult question to answer because it happens as a flow. So that flow of consciousness must come inside of us. For that, we need to reach that state of thoughtlessness. Otherwise, our thoughts only become the barrier. And then what happens? Well, divine functions irrespective of our thoughts. Divine is not so powerless that our thoughts will prevent manifestation. But if there is an interference, the efficiency of manifestation, for us, it is not efficient. For the divine, it is efficient only. Arjuna is not there, Krishna will choose somebody else. The work of the divine will not stop, only the direction of its action. So, for that, probably we should try to go into a state where we are suddenly going to control. It's difficult. I'm easily talking about it, okay? But that does not mean I have reached that state. I have not, but I want to, because someday when I do that, probably I will become an instrument of the divine to bring about transformation. What it does not need to be large scale or does not have to be any particular critical mass of transformation must happen. It could be within me only. That transformation may happen in me. That itself would be possible when I reach that state. That is probably the objective. So, with this little discussion, let's enter. Shervindo, Nirodbaran is, Dr. Nirodbaran says, he says, there are some people I hear who are to all external appearances debauchees or moral insolvents, but whose psychic is much developed or can be touched. Shabindu replies, that gives away the whole case. For mark that I have never asked the whole human race to follow me to the supramental. That is your invention, not mine. So, meaning there's always going to be a gradation of consciousness. The entire human race, Shabindu is saying, this is a path I have given, I'm opening for humanity or I'm laying it for the sake of the world, for the sake of the humanity. But he's not saying everybody, I'm asking everyone to quickly follow, leave everything. Because many times people feel this is the idea I've got, this is the vision. Now everybody follow me. It doesn't have to be like that. Shevendra is clarifying. This is your invention, not mine. Meaning he was aware that his path may not be fully understood by a lot of people, and that didn't really make much of a difference because he is connected with that higher consciousness and doing what work he was destined to do. And he understood that. So he was just going on. He said, this is your invention that entire, because many had young, like you see, youngsters have different thoughts, isn't it? Somebody thought immediately, then everybody in the world will suddenly get transformed into yogis. There was an interesting correspondence there earlier. But now you see, so many years down the line, can we see the world is full of yogis? That's a good thought. But that's not fully exactly happening. It'll take time. It's something like that. Nirodban goes on. He says, still you go on saying that what you have done is possible for me and not for Arjunas, only to whom Krishna seems to have addressed the Gita. Sri Aurobindo underlined Arjunas only. What a waste of words and energy. Still. Yet Krishna said, even Chandalas can follow my way. Now, this quickly is a very senseless analogy that Dr. Nirodbaran has given. He's just pointed it out. But you must appreciate Dr. Nirodbaran not hiding any of this, okay? When somebody tells something, immediately we try to cut that out, sugarcoat it, or remove the. When we report to somebody else who is part of our team or something, we quickly, oh, no, no, I want to cover that up. But here you see, he has allowed all of this to come to publication. That's the sincerity of Dr. Nirodbaran. That is why we love him so much as well. Let's continue. Dr. Nirodbaran, he says, I prophesy that your message will reverberate in the rarefied atmosphere, evoking a loud, rebellious echo from human hearts. Sri Aurobindo replies, I admit that you have successfully proved that I am an imbecile. I have no idea how Sri Aurobindo can write this, but that's his way of writing. Nirodhan goes on. He says, but if you say, I come to raise you bodily by my divine omnipotence, not by my example, I am all for it. If you insist that I follow your example, it would be as well as to insist on my leaving you bag and baggage at once. Oh my God. Shishya is telling to the Guru. What is he saying? He says, I come to raise if you say I have come to raise you bodily by my divine omnipotence, not by example. I am all for it. If you insist that I follow your example, it would be as well as to insist on leaving your bag and baggage at once. Leaving you bag and baggage at once. Now, what does this indicate? It's a very common feeling, isn't it? In many Shishyas also, they feel that Guru's Ashirwad must come, the sadhana will happen on its own. I don't want to take that step. Let the divine energy. No, you are so great, Guru Plum. Come on, please give your Ashirwad. So many mathas, no? The Shishyas go, they want the Guru to do the work, but they don't want to do that. So it appears like that. He said, if you are going to use your divine energies to raise me, I'm all for it. It's like saying if you give me a, I will travel in the flight if I get a, what we can say, first class ticket. But if you ask me to go by road, I'll not travel. It's as simple as that. Can we have choices in sadhana? Anybody? Can we have preferences? For sadhana, when sadhana is about surrendering to the divine without conditions, can we add conditions to it? No, this is a wrong condition that he has, and what is a dangerous aspect where he has talked about leaving. No, though these are ordinary words, but when it happens between Shishya and Guru, this create different ripples on the occult plane. Also, we can. It's not really something to, but it's Sri Aurobindo here, so he is going to handle everything. That much we can be sure. Let us see. Sri Aurobindo replies. All this is a purely personal argument concerning yourself. Up to now, you are making general assertions. So was I. I was concerned with the possibility of people following the path I had opened, as Christ, Krishna, Buddha, Chaitanya, etc. opened theirs. You were declaring that no human being could follow, and that my line was perfectly useless. As an example, like the lives of the avatars. Path. Now, again, the sarcasm. Sri Aurobindo is nowhere calling the lives of avatars useless. He's just using that. He's saying that you were assuming that this was of no practical purpose. Not my spiritual path, nor those avatars also. Path, life, example, all useless. Even power useless because all have been failures. These are general questions. Whether X or Y is able or willing to follow the path or depends on divine omnipotence only is a personal question. Even X or Y does so, he has no right to pass a general decree of impossibility against others. Meaning, like this is my experience, should not be the category or criteria for somebody to immediately universalize it. That's the reason we have clinical trials and say for a new medicine when it is established, because one medicine may work on one more person and another person it may not work at all. So to make a general rule, we need to have in statistics also, when you try to make a particular statement of declaration, it needs to have some bounding, not by just one person's anecdotal experience or person's experience only. Each one can have different. So there's a footnote here. Note that Sri Aurobindo wrote X and Y in the manuscript. Here they are not editorial substitutions. So this X, Y generally in this book they have used to hide names. But here Sri Aurobindo himself says ki even if X or Y does, is willing to or not willing to follow the path or is wanting to completely depend, it is a personal aspect, not generalized for everybody. Nirodbaran goes on. He says, there are some who claim that they are here and remain here by their soul's call. But I am not one of those fortunate ones. Where they hear the soul's call, I hear the calls of 1,000 devils. And if it were not for your love, well, no. For your power, which I firmly believe in, I would end up myself by being one of those devils. I hope you will believe that this is not a conceited statement. So here he is also saying it's not a conceited or selfish statement. And he says there are so many who claim here they are remain here by the soul's call. Now this is very interesting. The call of the soul. Sri Aurobindo has also elsewhere said, rare is the one who hears the call. Then there's a second line to it. Rarer is the one who heeds to it. Meaning that call is there. So what is this soul's call? If you would like to just take a moment out to, because Nirodbaran doctor is saying here that I don't know all of this call of the soul or anything. I don't know anything of that. They have heard it. If they are hearing calls, I'm not so lucky to hear any divine call. I do not know what he expected to what type of voice that divine call would come or what that is some his personal assertion. But he says, I hear instead the call of 1,000 devils. Now, what does this mean? Devils in a sense, can we name some of the devils from the Granthas? Bakasura, or is it Ravana, or who is, hi, it's Ravana on the line. What call is he hearing from the devils? What does that call of the devil mean? Anybody? Is it again tantric? People like to scare also nowadays in videos. People talk about that more often. What is this call of the devil here? Yes,
Lower thoughts or self-doubt?
lower
No.
thoughts. Yes, yes, yes. So thoughts for a Shishya, somebody of the caliber of Dr. Nirodbaran, who has made the ultimate sacrifice, isn't it? At a young age, living behind his entire career, driven by what? By an inner call only. He is saying, I have not heard the call, but he has heard that call. That is why he has come here. That call is what forced him. It became clear for him that that was the clarity. I have to do this, if not here, nowhere else. My sister also, she was very clear. She knew I'm going to, she was working in Aurobindo. She's like, no, I'm not experiencing what I wanted to experience. I'm going to get it. And she took her decision after that. It was an inner call. Each person gets it in a different style, but he says, I am not having it according to himself. Instead, I'm getting a lot of calls on the devils in the sense doubts because have I done the right step? Or am I? He does not have a doubt about his step, but he has a doubt about his capacity. This is a different type of self doubt, and this is a dangerous one. That way, I also had this personally so much that I thought I am the one, I am the Apshagun. I need to leave this place, then only the work will go up and will go ahead. These are all what we can say suggestions of the lower forces, if we want to talk about them in terms of divine and demonic forces. When something good happens, there are forces which try to prevent that manifestation. And so, how does they work? I mean, how do they work? They work through these doubts. So here he says, I felt this, and he says, what is protecting me from all of this? If it were not for your love, first he says, because love is one kavach only. It gives you a great satisfaction, it gives you a great protection, it gives you great quietude also on the inside because certainly that warmth will protect you in the coldest of cold moments. That warmth in the heart will there. But he then immediately corrects, no, 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 not just love, it's your power. So isn't love a power? Or love and power are different things. It's the most powerful force in human existence, in the human dream. And he says, no, if it is your power, I firmly believe in your power, is what he's saying. So, if not for that power of yours, he says, I would have ended up being one of those devils only. I hope you believe that this is not just a conceited statement. Sri Aurobindo replies, it is very conceited. To be a devil needs a considerable personal capacity or else a great openness to the beyond. If you had said, I can only be an ordinary human being, that might be modest. He says Ahankar. Don't say I'm Ahankarless. A lot of people have this habit. This is very interesting. When people say, no, I am not having Ahankar. Who is speaking that? The Ahankar is telling that, isn't it? That I don't have Ahankar. Or people talk about spirituality. This is what happens. When you go here, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. When you are working on the spiritual path, one of the first things would be you become silent on the inside. That is the movement ahead. So here he says, see, if you had just said you would be an ordinary human being, that would be modest. But here you are now not just ordinary, you are taking it to the other devil only. So that requires a lot of force. If you see Asuric force also requires a lot of Rajasic force. Asuric force is also connected with Ahankar. The difference between the Deva and the Asura was that only. The Ahankar, that mine, I will be different, or my force, my will, my action, everything.
What is the meaning of beyond here? Openness to the beyond?
So you see, Asuras also draw energy from the same pool of, forces.
Does that mean that even they have higher capacity to form the connection with divine, or
So
no?
they are connected with the divine. It is just that the force of the divine is being misused.
Okay.
Means it's like you see, there are two instruments. An instrument which is a constructive instrument, another is a destructive instrument. The source of the, say, if
Mm.
it is an electrical power driven instrument, the source, that electricity is one. But this is the Deva, this is the Asura, and both have a role. So they are connected. If you see, Sri Aurobindo had also talked about something very interesting about Asurasya Udyamam Shakti. Give me that strength. Give me that to Ma Durga. Give me the strength of the Asura, the ball of the Asura. But let the Viveka of the Deva come out. But let the gunas of the Devas, good qualities. So, because sometimes that brute force is required, isn't it? Have you heard of Ghatotkach in Mahabharata? So he was what? He was an Asura, but the Asura on the side of the Devas. That was something very interesting. So that is what we see here. The answer is yes. So this much we must understand, and we don't have to. If we can understand that, we will be alert also, isn't it? Because they are also drawing from the same place. Do not think that means divine forces like this, the Asuric force is too weak. No, they are also drawing energy. They're distorting that energy. It's important to recognize that also. But when the highest truth comes, they both surrender. रश्मिमन्तं समुद्यन्तं देवासुरनमस्कृतं पूजयामि विवस्वन्तं भास्करं भुवनेश्वरम. This is the Aditya Hridaya. That will, in front of this brilliant light, both will bow, both will do the namaskarams. So let's continue. We don't, Nirodban says, we don't mean to give you a compliment when we say these things. Shervindo replies, I'm not able to get the context of which he is talking about, probably a previous statement which was made earlier.
Yeah, he's talking
Shervindo,
about like your power and all, no?
acha, the power. Acha, okay. All right.
Saying
So
that I'm
he's
not trying to appease you, I'm just.
okay. But he was all I and suddenly he has made it we, no? Earlier he was talking about I, and now. So anyway, so it goes on. Shervindo replies, so his statement was, we don't mean to give you a compliment when we say these things. Shervindo replies, of course not. It is a reverse of complimentary. Since you prove me to be an ignorant and mistaken fellow of an avatar, who merely wastes his time doing things which are of no earthly use to any human being, except perhaps Arjuna, who is not here. So he's saying, whatever I'm doing now, according to you, is just useless. It may be useful only for Arjuna, but unfortunately, Arjuna is not here. He was there earlier. Now he is not on the Bhuloka. Nirodban goes on. He says, we say that the sun is a thing apart, not to be measured by any human standards. We say that the sun is a thing apart, not to be measured by any human standards. Shrevendu replies, the sun's rays are of use to somebody. You say all my acts and life and laborious openings of the way I thought I had made for spiritual realization are of no use to anybody, since nobody is strong enough to follow the path. Only the avatar can do it. Poor, lonely, ineffective fellow of an avatar. Again, this is a classic sarcasm. Nirodban goes on. We respect him, adore him, lay ourselves bare to his light, but we do not follow him. Sri Aurobindo replies, who is this we? Editorial we? Because in editors, generally, the editorial board takes a decision and writes in the starting of a, let's say, an issue of a magazine. Who is this we? Editorial we? Then he goes on. He says, let me point out one or two facts in a perfectly serious spirit. Number one, it has always been supposed by spiritual people that divine perfection, similitude to the divine, sadrishya, sadharmya is part of mukti, of the mukti. So this similitude to the divine can be, um, you can call it sarupata. So you become, I mean, some people on the path of the divine, as they move ahead closer and closer, they start appearing like the divine, or people get darshanas of that person in the form of the divine elsewhere. I personally know some people who had somebody else saw that person in a different Vithal Rupa elsewhere in another country, another continent only. It's so far away. But why that was an indication that was, we can say that was an emanation of the same being, person gone elsewhere, and this person was receptive to see it because of Shraddha, XYZ factors. But these are all indications of moving ahead on the path. That's what Sri Aurobindo is talking about. that divine perfection, similitude to the divine, sadrishya, sadharmya, these are all a part of mukti. Christ said, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect," the very divine himself. Mind you, not a mere avatar or luminous projection from him. His followers strive to be Christ-like. Thomas A. Kempis, meditating and striving, wrote a book on the imitation of Christ. Francis of Assisi and many others arrived at Christ-likeness. Krishna in the Gita insists on Sadharmya, gives example, gives himself as an example, and tells Arjuna that many before him from ancient times reached it. Buddha, in teaching Karuna, the Eightfold Path, the rejection of sanskaras, gave it as an ideal to all true followers of his path, thus placing before them not only his own path but also his own example. All this is trash and humbug? Question mark. Christ and Buddha were fools? Another question mark. Myself even a bigger fool? He replies, he says, continues, it is not a question of greatness, it is a question of acquiring a certain consciousness, to which the way is laid open. It is not a question of acquiring cosmic omniscience and omnipotence, but of reaching the essential divine consciousness with all its spiritual consequences: peace, light, equality, strength, ananda, etc. etc. If you say, if you say that cannot be done, you deny the possibility, all possibility of spiritual perfection, transformation, or any true yoga. All that one can do is to lie helpless and wait for the divine omnipotence to do something or the other. The whole spiritual past of man becomes a fantastic insanity, with the avatars as the chief lunatics. That is the materialist point of view, but I am unable to envisage it as a basis for sadhana. That example is not at all. It's true. I have not said it is. There is influence, there is spiritual help, but the truth of way and example cannot be belittled in this scornful fashion. So here Sri Aurobindo has finally told him that this is not right. You are belittling. Means sometimes in your dialogue, in Marathi there is saying, Ati parichayat avagnya. When you become too friendly, too casual, then you lose that understanding, no? Of sometimes you know people, you take them for granted, isn't it? Sometimes you do it unconsciously or unknowingly. It's not done intentionally. But this is what happens, and here this is what is happening. And so the Sri Aurobindo has to correct him and tell him, no, don't do this. This is wrong. You've got so used to it. It is a nature of human mind, no? We have to transform it, and that's what Sri Aurobindo's yoga is also about. Change the mold of nature itself. So mind also has to change. So here, so he says this, that these are all examples. Look at Buddha. He even gives the example of the Christ. He gives the example of the Saint Francis of Assisi, who had reached what they call Christ-like state, or somebody had written a book called Imitation of the Christ. What is that about? What about Buddha then? His Eightfold Path, the Karuna, his own example. Not only the path has been put for everybody to follow, isn't it? It's not like you cannot follow it at all. I am supreme. Just understand I will be beyond everybody and nobody can walk on what I have walked. Then there is no purpose. There is no reason for all of this. That is why Sri Aurobindo also, it's like a scolding he has given. He has given like a scolding to or Nirodbaran. Just one moment. Yeah. So he has given a scolding to him. He says, you cannot dismiss this in such a scornful fashion. Because if you are not doing this, then what is the purpose of sadhana? Or how can that be a base of sadhana that I will not evolve, I will expect the divine to only evolve? This is really something, what we can say, different. Sri Aurobindo goes on, he says, you make nothing of the divine in man. If there is no divinity in man, then there is, there is no possibility of avatarhood. Also, spirituality can just as well pass away into silence. It has no foundation here. If the divinity is there in man, it can break through its coatings. You admit that it can do it in debauchees and moral insolvents, that it can manifest in ignorant and uncultured men and women, is a proved fact. The Gita itself declares that all kinds of men and women can follow its path. Whether X or Y, again, this X and Y is written by Sri Aurobindo, no names. Whether X or Y does or does not, does not depend then on these things. And it is no use trying to bar the path to people because of either their ignorance or either their or immorality. To do so is to betray a bottomless ignorance of spiritual things. As to the possibility of awakening the psychic being, on what intellectual grounds or by what fixed ethical or rational rules are you going to fix that and declare no entry here for you? You cannot generalize in a way you try to do by an intellectual reasoning. The mystery of the spirit is too great for such a puny endeavor. Meaning, this is something. The spirit's mystery is a brilliant one, it's a beautiful one, which cannot be just limited by mental logic. The logic was this is the nature. And you see, this is a very sad thing to do that. And here is in this process, what is he doing? He's just making nothing of the divinity in man, isn't it? I mean, sometimes our mind also tries to convince us there is no divinity in me. There is nothing. I am just now at the mercy. I am at the mercy of the divine. Divine only will raise. If the divine raises me, I will go to the first floor, or I'll go to the 10th floor, or I'll remain on the ground floor. But I will not go to the elevator. I will not press the button. It's not possible like that. This is not something we should ever do. That we are going to just depend on the divine, and that's a very wrong approach as well. Then what happened? What is the reason? Means then what is the need for divinity at all then? If either man has to only do without divine, again man has to do with the divine help. So again, we need to remain connected with the divine, but we also have to take the action. If we don't take action, how can it happen? And also, if there is no divinity in man, then there is no possibility of avatarhood also, because avatar enters no into the mortal. And he says, if there is divinity, that divinity can manifest. Inside of us, we must first become conscious and understand I am a divine human being. Because there's a beautiful quote. I do not know who has made it, but if you can remember or if anybody knows, you tell me. Man is a spiritual being living a human experience. Means where it is, we are all of us, we are having a human experience, but essentially we are spiritual beings. We are going through Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Kaumara, Yauvana, Jara. What is all of this Krishna talked about in the Gita? These are all stages of the body, but on the level of the spirit, we are all one. It does not matter. It never matters. Age is not a factor, nor is anything else on the outside, because that is what is important. And that spirit, it comes out. Sometimes young children speak something, isn't it? Young children speak something very wise. Everybody gets shocked. After Krishna's butter Gita class for kids, one child told the mother, "Don't worry, mom, don't cry." Somebody had passed away and she was feeling very bad. He said, "This is a spirit inside. The spirit is going to be eternal only. This body only has changed." And the mother was shocked. How did this young boy talk about such deep concepts? Then she asked him, "Where did you learn?" And then he pointed out to Krishna's better kids batch. But the aspect that even a child, or sometimes I have no experience, how can I speak? It doesn't have to. Do you have to have your own experience? If you are connected with the divine, divine is that source of experience which is already having. Who knows what births, previous births, what experience you have got, and you've suddenly got the smriti. That's what the Upanishads talk about. Kruto smara kritam smara. And then somebody who is very senior also, if they've got such a great life experience, they can talk not only on the basis of the life experience that they have gathered, but at the same time, when they connect with the divine, then they can even manifest some higher divine will just by a single action. They don't have to do the same action which a youngster has to do. Youngster will do the hamali, we can call it, ask them to lift the heavy things. It's all right. Somebody who is a senior need not do all those works. Young man will say, why walk when you can run? But somebody who is very senior can say, why run when you can walk? Why walk when you can stand? Why stand when you can sit? Conserve those energies, but those energies can be used for conscious force. So this aspect of everybody being able to, because suddenly Nirodhan contradicts also, and he says those who are morally insolvent are only more open. They can have be touched by the psychic and get transformed. Valya can become Valmiki because probably he was doing wrong actions as a Valya. That was a wrong tarka that Nirodhan Doctor was using. So Sri Aurobindo says this is not right, and don't dismiss the beauty and the brilliance of the spirit. This happens because of our mind. Because of our mind is rigid, no? Though it is sukshma, it is also rigid because of its past experiences. So that is something which is important. Let's continue. Whatever correspondence on avatarhood follows now refers only to Sri Aurobindo's short reply of March 6, 1935. See above page 165 in my book. Your book might be something else. Written on the chit. Nirod Chimera then or before. You seem to attribute, so Nirodban goes on, you seem to attribute me things which I never said. Court case is still going on. No final resolution. You seem to attribute to me things which I never said. Or is it my clumsy way of putting things? Probably that. He already knows it. Probably that. But even then you have put into my mouth exactly the opposite of what I was trying to say. For instance, when did I say that you are not an avatar? On the contrary, I wrote to you that you are an avatar. So he's probably still not understanding what is happening fully. That is, he's a young man, no? He's a young man going the path ahead. So I can say young because now I have become older than him in this particular date and day.
So he was in
Otherwise,
his 30s at this point.
1935 was 30s. Early 30s also? Or
Early
what? Maybe I'm 35.
31,
So,
32. He was in
huh? He's born in?
31, 31, 32. He was.
Ah, so still younger. I Anyway, there's nothing. I mean, there's age is also not a factor. We just saw in a moment. There's a nice Sanskrit verse. Dharma vruddheshu vayaha na samikshate. The age is not a factor on the path of dharma. But anyway, let's come back. So his aspect is he's saying you seem to be attributing. I never said this. It's like arguing and contradicting again. I didn't say this. Or I may be little clumsy in speaking. Arjuna also said that, no, I didn't intend, oh Krishna, I didn't intend to make fun of you or disturb you when you were alone or when you were sleeping or when you were eating or when you were with company. You understand, I didn't intend, but whether you intend or not is not it's not important, isn't it? What you do, that is important. So here, and then he also explains it, self-diagnosis. He says, probably it's my way of speaking which causes this miscommunication. And he says, for when did I say you're not an avatar? On the contrary, I wrote, you're just making opposite of what I'm saying. So again, the fault is not in Nirodbaran's side, it is on Sri Aurobindo's side, according to him. Let's continue. Sri Aurobindo, this is very much patience, lot of patience, isn't it? What Sri Aurobindo is having to tolerate all of these discussions continuously. We've all gone to an age where we have no time. No time to respond, no time to discuss, no time to have a talk. Quickly, come to the point. What is it? Give me a AI generated summary of it. Don't make me read the entire thing. But here, you see the time that is taken. That is what is special. We are not in a hurry. The world tries to put it onto us. We feel no, we have deadlines, commitments, work, work, workplace commitments, say, institutional commitments. They always try to create a feeling you're in a hurry, you're in a hurry, you need to do something. But actually, it is not the case. You need to become alert, you need to become aware, and that time you can understand better. But that is what does not happen. We don't have that quietude inside. Because if we have that quietude, we can deal with opposition much more with greater poise, with greater control, and we will not lose track of. Because when you are in a hurry, you make mistakes, isn't it? Because I feel one action leads to this leads to this leads to this, so I have to make everything fall in place. But then suddenly the equation keeps getting changed because we can't control the universe, but we can control how we deal with the forces that come from the universe. So let us remember that, let us take a deep breath and look at things. When things happen, we can take a look at the patience which our great yogi Sri Aurobindo had while dealing with a young Shishya. This is not something which is going to directly contribute to anything to Sri Aurobindo himself. He's already reached such a high state, yet he is having that time. And a lot of great ones are those who are not trapped in the maya of this sansara. I'm not having time, I'm too busy. No, I think it was Chambaklaji, I think, a great sadhak. About him, he had beautifully said, I'm not sure if this was his quote, but one of the great sadhaks of the ashram who is no more now, he had said, I'm always free, always busy. Means always free for what? For the divine work. Always busy for the undivine forces. Always busy, not available to those who are not furthering the sadhana. Never available. You don't have one moment to spare. Spare where? For any of these lower forces. Anybody is coming to distract you, deviate you from your path, you don't have time. But otherwise, if it is on the path, you should become conscious enough and understand. Like there's a great author, Paulo Coelho, has talked about time being a man-made concept. So interesting, isn't it? There's no hurry then. So let's continue. We go on. Nirodbaran goes on. I mean, Shervinda says, I am, you don't say, but if your theory or description of an avatar is right, I am not one. I am proceeding on the necessary consequences of your logic. You're saying this is your logic, this is what it's implying. You may not have directly said it. This is your implication. Nirodban goes on. When did I say that you or mother had no difficulties or struggles? Did I not write that the avatar accepts all terrestrial conditions, etc.? He's quoting himself like he's a Shastra Vadi and Pramana of his statement. Did I not write that the avatar accepts all terrestrial conditions, etc.? However, I did say that the difficulties and struggles are all shams. That is not as real as our difficulties. So saying they are difficulties, but they are all dramas, not real like other human beings. Sharmindo replies, if they are shams, they have no value for others or for any true effect. If they have no value for others or for any true effect, they are perfectly irrational and unreal and meaningless. So this is the meaning. When it's pointlessness, why he is saying avatarhood is pointless is what you are implying. He says, see, your statement only that these are not really that type of troubles. Means you are creating a bhed, no, for no reason. Means my problem is like this. This is my problem. That person's problem is not such a serious problem. Mine is more serious. Mine is more important. Even people with worse diseases also say this disease is more powerful than the other person's bad disease. That's not really, but that is the nature of, we can say, a personal individual will, no? There is a coating of ahankar by default. That is why sadhana needs to be done. Mana, buddhi, ahankar is there, no, inside of everybody. And that comes in between. That is why sadhana has to, slowly push that aside. So here he says, if you see they are shams, they have no value for others or for any true effect. And so means nobody, it's no use then. If it's a drama, somebody does a drama and says, see, I also had a problem, but this person never really had a problem, then what's the use? It's of no reference or implication to anybody. The divine does not need to suffer or struggle for himself. If he takes, Hari Om, yes, we just, sorry for the interruption. Yeah. If they have no value for others or for any true effect, they are perfectly irrational and unreal and meaningless. The divine does not need to suffer or struggle for himself. If he takes on these things, it is in order to bear the burden and help the world and men. And if the sufferings and struggles are to be of any help, they must be real. A sham or falsehood cannot help. They must be as real as the struggles and sufferings of men themselves. The divine bears them and at the same time shows the way out of them. Otherwise, his assumption of human nature has no meaning and no utility and no value. It is strange that you cannot understand or refuse to admit so simple and crucial a point. What is the use of admitting avatarhood if you take all the meaning out of it? This is if you just what is the point in looking at avatarhood at all? Means one person said, I respect Krishna, I have dialogues with Krishna I had gone to a talk. A lot of elderly people were there in that, around 100, 200 people in front of them. She has declared that she's got this dialogues taking place with the divine. And then the same person, I think it was the same person because I couldn't see the screen from the voice. That person is just making an inference that, but all the others see everyone ended their lives in suicide. I mean, how are you? One side, you either have reverence, on the other side, you're having absolutely no reverence while making a very false statement which has no sense or meaning. I mean, if you give a logic, it will become endless discussion for no reason. So there was a point. I just pointed out that was quite a hard statement to make, which is not grounded on the facts. If you look at it, it is different. But that person was not willing. So this is what happens. And this is what he's doing here. Dr. Nirodbaran is just taking out unfortunately, the meaning of the avatarhood. If you don't experience, means many times, like very recent, one more yogi, I think, I'm not able to remember the name. He speaks to people about going into state of ananda, converting suffering, all moments into ananda. What about him? He's personally going through certain diseases. Medical treatment has to be done every day. And yet that person is smiling and the shishas and others are surprised. They say, that's just false. You are teasing all of us by saying you are getting this medical treatment because it doesn't look like you're having this medical treatment at all. And the response of the yogi was a big laughter, loud laughter, which is the laughter of Ananda only. Because he appreciated the part where this person is not really, he's recognizing that, yes, this is how it needs to be done. And that is why the yogi is going through this. Means somebody has difficulty, somebody is having pain, and yet the person is teaching how to not suffer. That's why the avatars went through. Look at Sri Rama, how he separated from Sita. His pain of separation from whom he loves so much. It was real, isn't it? Why was it so real? Because that would teach an example for everybody. So they go through all of these, you understand it, and otherwise there's no point in even recognizing the avatar. So I think with this we draw a conclusion to today. If somebody can summarize something that we saw, you are welcome. If anybody has any doubts, anything you wish to ask or share, that also you are welcome. Or we conclude with the summary then. Yes, please. Maji, Aditi ji, Chitra ji, anything you would like to ask or share? Any point? Any question?
Yeah, like you said that Sri Ram example.
Hmm.
So Sri Ram also suffered through separation from his
Yeah,
wives.
yeah,
And both the times, it was not that he was not suffering. He was actively in pain.
Yeah, he
So
was in pain.
yes, so he like
Yes.
he's saying that avatars will not feel. So it's not
Ha,
that.
it's not there at all. Why did he do that? Boss had to establish Ram Rajya. Constitution has to be put, so constitution has to be put means everybody will go through the rules.
Hmm.
Even if the rules are not ideal, the rules have to be tweaked, but they will be tweaked over time. Like constitution was set up, then so many amendments one after the other had to be made because spirit of the law was not being upheld. But the one who has to do that has to sacrifice. Pathfinders have to make sacrifice, isn't it? Sri Aurobindo did not get time to spend with Mrinalini. He wanted Mrinalini to come. He even had a understanding what is going to happen. Means some Jyotish knowledge also was there, and he predicted if this part can be, but her life would have got extended, and he wanted her to come join him in the sadhana. But it did not happen, isn't it? But we don't know the so many facets of Sri Aurobindo's life. Means the way he talks, it doesn't look like he's. You see, Sri Aurobindo's did not suffer, is what Nirodbaran is even telling. But look at all of this, isn't it? The one who has such a great, vast vision, he suddenly retreats into a cave of a room in Pondicherry's weather for somebody who is not here. It's not like a hill station at all. Very high humidity. You sweat like crazy. That time they used to have difficulty in Dr. Nirodbaran had once hit him with the fan hose. Much later on in the evening talks, you will see that in the later stages where he had to have experienced so much. And they'd ask questions, and the sisters would keep asking questions. Sherwindo once got injured, and he got a very serious injury. And it was like the femur, right, there only. That's very difficult to heal. So a lot of bed rest and all. Even those times, question answers would go on. His sisters would not, but they would see how he is bearing all of it with quietude. So this aspect that we feel divine will give us insulation from all problems. No, problems are required sometimes. Maths, we have problems, no? In mathematics, we get them. They're called problems, but they're not really that problematic because they teach us things. We learn to solve difficult situations. So in life, problems will come. We'll have to raise our consciousness. We'll have to reach that state where we are receptive to the divine. Then every problem will be no problem for us because we are ready to move on. With this, let us conclude. Somebody can summarize. Yes, something you would like to add in summary? Anybody? Yes, Chitraji.
So Dr. Nirodbaran says that Sri Aurobindo can uplift him through his divine omnipotence and not just by telling if I can do it, even you can also do it. He just wants some kind of a force to just make it happen. So else he might consider leaving this path is what he says. So Sri Aurobindo says that like the other avatars, he too has created a path for others to follow. It feels like all the avatars or whatever paths they have created is almost useless if nobody is willing to walk on that or just expecting the divine to do everything without having to take up that path. So, and this argument seems to be a little personal or self-centered one is what he points it out. And he also, Dr. Nirodbaran says that he is not having that inner call like what others claim, other sadhaks who have come. So he feels that he is just having or being entangled with a lot of lower emotions. And Sri Aurobindo gives a lot of examples like example of Christ where he told that one has to be as perfect as the Heavenly Father, and how Krishna also explains it to Arjuna that there are many others who were able to reach that realization or the consciousness, divine state of consciousness. And these are all not something that can be called as just some miracles or something. It is a path that has to be walked upon. And just because it is not working for some, it doesn't mean it doesn't work for everyone. This aspect is something that
Yeah.
he has to take out. And it's not always about reaching the state of greatness. It is about reaching that state of consciousness that has been open for us to acquire. So these are some of the important points that we saw. Yeah, the main point is, yeah, it's just to tell that it's not taking away the meaning of avatarhood is something that Dr. Nirodbaran has been trying to sort of separate and call it something as just divine is there for just doing my. It's
Well,
possible for the
I
divine
think
to
we
do
have to
something.
just put on hold at the moment because suddenly a work has come. All right, let us. I'm sorry, we'll just conclude it. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kasyit dukkha bhag.